and the ferry industry fared. Well, our reporter, Emma Howard, is in Zeebrugge. Morning again, Emma.
Good morning, Andrew. The sinking of the Herald of Free Enterprise just outside these harbour walls was the worst British peacetime disaster at sea since the sinking of the Titanic. 193 people were killed. Today, the government will sign an international agreement to improve safety on roll-on, roll-off ferries. But critics say the improvements won't come soon enough.
The Dover Freight Pierhead at Zeebrugge on a blustery afternoon. And on the roll-on, roll-off freighter European Gateway, they're closing the bow doors before casting off. It was the simple failure to do this 10 years ago which caused Britain's worst ferry disaster.
The Herald of Free Enterprise disaster was caused by a combination of bad luck, bad handling and bad management. After a prolonged inquiry, there were scores of safety recommendations. Today's ships are much less vulnerable than they used to be, but still the nagging doubts remain. Could it happen again?
Theoretically, the answer is no. There are strict procedures laid down for all roll-on, roll-off ferries beginning before anyone boards the ship. For a start, all freight lorries are weighed, so the deck loading can be computerized. Secondly, everyone has a boarding pass, so the precise numbers are known. 10 years ago, nobody knew for certain how many people were on the Herald. But the most important changes are in the procedures for closing the watertight doors. When the Herald sank, it was left to a boatswain's mate. Today, there's a deck officer to make a check call. There are TV cameras keeping a constant watch on the doors, warning lights on the bridge, and a legally binding announcement to the passengers telling them the doors have been checked is also taped by the overhead aircraft-style black box recorder.
The ship is now fully secured for sea, and we will be leaving the berth shortly.
The English Channel is the world's busiest waterway, and the problem for ferries is that they're crossing two crowded shipping lanes. The biggest risk has always been collision. At the University of Strathclyde Ship Stability Research Tank at Dumbarton, they're well aware of what collision damage can mean to a roll-on, roll-off ferry. Only a small amount of water is needed to cause a capsize. It's called free surface effect.
Safety has been an afterthought as a subject, or more so than one would have wished for. If safety is catered for in design as a central subject, that's the only way we can optimize safety in a way that it could make a difference.
The Stockholm Agreement being signed today sets new standards. By the year 2002, ferries must be able to survive being holed in two compartments below the waterline and contain floodwater half a metre deep on the car deck. Some ships, like this one, already meet that requirement, but others don't.
There are still question marks over the stability of ro-ro ferries. While improvements have come into place, they're by no means universal on the ships sailing from British ports. 3/4 of them would not meet the current international agreements, and indeed they don't have to until the year 2002.
The best the government can do is promise that the worst ships will be modernised first. A decade after the Zeebrugge disaster, ferry travel has become a lot safer, but it still has a long way to go. Christopher WAIN, BBC News.
Well, with me now is maritime expert and editor of Safety at Sea, Eric Beech. Good morning. First of all, Eric, could it happen again?
Well, certainly for British ships operating out of UK ports, we now have indicating warning lights on the bridge. We also have closed-circuit television monitoring the doors to make sure that they are closed before roll-on, roll-off ferries leave their port of departure.
They're not standard in every ferry, though, are they?
No, that's right, but of course, this is something that the British government have implemented since the Herald of Free Enterprise, and they've also been active in implementing higher standards of stability for roll-on, roll-off ships.
The British government are also going to sign this agreement later today to try and improve the standard of ferries, hopefully throughout the whole of Europe. Some people are saying it's going to take 5 years before we see that come into effect. That's too slow, isn't it?
Well, this is the best that the international community could do to give the option for regional agreements. Yes, it's certainly slower than we would like, but at least we have some agreement to get an even higher level of stability on roll-on, roll-off ferries.
Some people are saying that there's still a danger there.
Well, it's certainly in Northern European waters, the agreement that's been signed will address the worst-case scenario. The problem really is perhaps in areas like Southern Europe, in the Mediterranean area, where agreement hasn't been reached, and potentially there is a problem there.
So would you say that ferries in general are safe?
Certainly they're safer than they were. There's a lot that can still be done, particularly to try and get a world agreement on this highest standard of stability. And also the introduction of voyage data recorders, the marine equivalent of the black box that we know in aviation. That would do an awful lot to try and help solve the problems of disasters like, for example, the Estonia.
Eric Beech, thank you very much for joining us. And now back to the studio and Andrew.
Emma, thanks very much. 4 months to go before the...
I come from the net, through systems, peoples, and cities, to this place, mainframe. My format, Guardian, to mend and defend. To defend my newfound friends, their hopes and dreams. To defend them from their enemies.